Iran has launched a massive new ballistic missile and drone attack on northern Israel in response to Saturday's attacks by the Zionist regime on the country's energy infrastructure. Gaza's health authorities reported that the Palestinian death toll in the war-ravaged Strip rose to 55,297 since October 7, 2023. In the United States, massive protests against Donald Trump's anti-immigrant policies take place this Saturday. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Iran has launched a new massive ballistic missile and drone attack on northern Israel in response to Saturday's attacks by the Zionist regime on the country's energy infrastructure, including the largest natural gas extraction and refining plant. The Iranian Air Force has confirmed the launch of a combined strike against Israel involving both ballistic missiles and unmanned drones. Several of the Iranian ballistic missiles have flown over Jordanian airspace, and many of them have reportedly been intercepted by the country's anti-aircraft systems. Israel's emergency services reported that several warning calls have been received in the country's coastal and northern districts for damage to buildings and open areas. In this context, the primary focus of this new round of Operation True Promise 3 is reportedly the occupied port city of Haifa and its surroundings, home to several critical military and industrial facilities of the regime. The strikes have so far targeted a series of strategic Israeli military and industrial sites, including oil refineries and electricity grids in Haifa, where fires reportedly broke out as a result. Images show a massive blaze at the Haifa oil refinery with thick black smoke billowing into the sky, with preliminary reports suggesting that the ensuing blaze is emitting toxic chemicals into the air. In the northern occupied territories, missile sirens sounded in the Upper Galilee and Western Galilee regions, as well as in the city of Nazareth and its surrounding areas and the city of Afula. The Iranian Air Defense Force shot down Israeli drones in the airspace of the Zanjan province. Iranian Air Defense intervened immediately after several small drone and reconnaissance vehicles violated the province's airspace and managed to destroy advanced Zionist drones in several areas. They also reported that these drones were intended for espionage and surveillance operations inside the nation. Therefore, the armed forces and the air defense network stated that they are on high alert in case of any infiltration into the country, assuring that they will respond to the enemy as soon as possible. On the other hand, Tasnim news agency reports that the headquarters of Iran's defense ministry located in Tehran was attacked on Saturday night by Israeli forces. The media reports that one of the office buildings of the headquarters was slightly damaged. Meanwhile, during another attack in the area, the ministry's Defense Research and Innovation Organization was also hit. Previously, the Israel Defense Forces reported that they attacked military targets in Tehran while operating to intercept missiles launched from Iran. Iranian naval forces identify and force a British intelligence destroyer operating in the waters of the Sea of Oman, accused of attempting to guide Israeli missiles into Iranian territory to change its course. The Public Relations Office of the Iranian Naval region reported that the British warship, which had entered the northern Indian Ocean the previous night with the alleged purpose of coordinating Israeli attacks, was detected by Iranian maritime surveillance systems. It was also subsequently intercepted by Navy combat drones, which issued warnings that prevented its progress into the Persian Gulf. The destroyer, now under Iranian operational monitoring in the waters of the Sea of Oman, was thus forced to alter its trajectory, although Tehran did not specify whether there was a physical confrontation or only a strategic deterrence. In the Middle East, Syria and Jordan closed their airspace amid regional tensions. In the midst of escalating tensions, the Middle East has decided to close its airspace as a preventive measure against possible threats to its national security. The measure follows similar restrictions adopted by Iraq and Iran. This in a context of growing instability generated by the provocations of the Israeli regime and its Western allies. In Yemen, the Ansar Allah movement categorically denied on Saturday reports of alleged Israeli airstrikes on Yemen territory. The denials come after international media reported alleged Israeli bombardments against Houthi positions in the last 24 hours. Likewise, while the enemy is staggering under the weight of the Iranian attacks, it resorts to promoting lies to fabricate an imaginary victory. For its part, the Yemeni government claimed that this news is part of a psychological war to mislead the people of the Middle East. Meanwhile, Iranian defenses responded to Israeli drone strikes against the strategic port of Bandar Abbas. The reports detailed that the Zionist aggression took place during a local holiday, but for the moment, possible deaths or injuries are ruled out. Likewise, the Iranian forces warned that defense activities were also activated in regions such as Tabriz, Khorramabad, and near nuclear facilities in Isfahan. Meanwhile, Iran reported a new Israeli attack on Saturday against a natural gas facility located in the South Pars field in the Persian Gulf. The Zionist army attacked a petroleum refinery warehouse belonging to the Fajar Jam company in the province of Bushehr. The attack caused a fire in the area, and firefighters are working on site to extinguish the blaze. In this refinery is the world's largest natural gas field shared between Tehran and Doha. According to Gaza's health authorities on Saturday, the Palestinian death toll in the war-ravaged Strip has risen to 55,297, with a further 128,426 injured since the genocide began on October 7, 2023. Over the past 48 hours, Israeli attacks have claimed 90 Palestinian lives and injured a further 605 people. It specified that 5,014 deaths and 16,385 injuries had occurred since March 18, 2025, and revealed that medical facilities had received 274 fatalities and over 2,532 injured people from incidents near humanitarian aid distribution centers in southern Gaza. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In the United States, protests against the anti-immigration and repressive policies of President Donald Trump are ongoing. Under the slogan, "A Day Without Kings," thousands of people have showed their rejection to the hegemonic policies of the Trump administration, which is using the army to repress demonstrators and the immigrant community in the United States. The protests, which were also called in Mexico, the United Kingdom and Germany, follow several days of tensions and riots in the city of Los Angeles, spurred by the latest raids on immigrants. Over 2,000 protests have been called in all 50 states of the country amid the military parade announced by the U.S. President to mark Flag Day and the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army.
I'm here to protest the unlawful deployment of the California National Guard and the ICE raids breaking up LA families. I'm here to send a message to Washington, D.C. Congress needs to stop Donald Trump. Federal courts need to continue their checks on his power.
Early on Saturday morning, 2 Minnesota state legislators and their spouses were victims of separate shootings allegedly carried out by an individual posing as a police officer. Democratic Representative Melissa Hoffman of Brooklyn Park and her husband, Mark, were killed. Democratic Senator John Hoffman and his wife were injured and are receiving treatment in hospital. The attacks occurred in two different locations, Champlain and Brooklyn Park. The police department issued a lockdown alert following reports of multiple shootings, warning residents not to approach any suspects as the shooter may be posing as a law enforcement officer. Authorities believe the attacker is armed and extremely dangerous.
We're here today because an unspeakable tragedy has unfolded in Minnesota. My good friend and colleague, Speaker Melissa Hortman, and her husband Mark were shot and killed early this morning in what appears to be a politically motivated assassination. Our state lost a great leader, and I lost a dearest of friends. Speaker Hortman was someone who served the people of Minnesota with grace, compassion, humor, and a sense of service. She was a formidable public servant, a fixture and a giant in Minnesota. She woke up every day determined to make this state a better place. She is irreplaceable, and we've been missed by so many. Minnesota's thoughts and prayers are with her family, her loved ones, her children, and her parents. My prayers also go out to State Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette, who were each shot multiple times. The Hoffmans are out of surgery at this time and receiving care, and we are cautiously optimistic they will survive this assassination attempt.
On Saturday, the presidents of Russia and the U.S., Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, spoke by telephone. The two leaders discussed the escalation in the Middle East caused by the Israeli attack on Iran. According to Yuri Ushakov, a Russian presidential advisor, Putin condemned Israel's military operation against Iran and expressed serious concern about a possible escalation of the conflict. Trump also described the situation as very alarming, but acknowledged the effectiveness of Israel's attacks on facilities in Iranian territory. The telephone conversation between the two leaders lasted 50 minutes. They also discussed the Ukrainian conflict and compliance with the agreement reached with Kyiv at the last Istanbul meeting. In addition, Ushakov stated that Putin had congratulated Trump on his birthday. In Bolivia, President Luis Arce announced that he will continue operations to remove roadblocks in regions disrupted by protests, demanding that former President Evo Morales be allowed to run in upcoming elections. Arce reported that police and military forces are working to lift the blockades in Potosí, Chiquisaca, and Santa Cruz. In this regard, authorities are taking action to guarantee free transit and the safety of citizens and prevent food shortages. President Arce also condemned acts of political violence and what he described as illegal methods in the exercise of democracy. As Brazil's trial of former President Bolsonaro moves forward quickly, legal analysts are predicting that the final verdict will be made by October. Our correspondent Brian Meir has more.
The Supreme Court trial against former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro and 7 of his cronies, who prosecutors believe made up the central nucleus of a 3-year plot, to implement a military coup has reached the final stretch as the defendants were called to the stand this week to testify.
I would like to know of the defendant. Mr. Bolsonaro believes that he acted within the framework of the Constitution when, after disagreeing with a court order, he summoned the commanders of the armed forces to debate it.
Far-right former President Jair Bolsonaro started off calmly during his nearly 2 hours on the stand. But most journalists and analysts who covered the proceedings believe that as the questions got more complicated, he began to lose his cool and sabotaged his own defense.
Por que comandante militar? Tem a mesma formação minha.
Why the armed forces commanders? We had the same education. We went to the academy. We had the same training. The military are always with you in your good and bad moments. I was in no mood to invite anyone to discuss anything. They were the only ones left who could listen to me let off steam.
The defendants have finished their testimony. Now the court will summon key witness, Lieutenant Colonel Mauro Cid, to the stand to make his final statement. From this moment, the defendants will have a period of 15 days to develop and present their final arguments to the court. At that point, a panel of 5 justices will issue their rulings, which legal scholars are predicting will come in by October.
Bolsonaro
incriminated himself by admitting the existence and his knowledge of a greeting coup plan, by admitting that he presented this plan in a meeting with the commanders of the armed forces, and by admitting that he directly looked for alternatives to the election results, including declaring a state of siege.
If convicted, former President Jair Bolsonaro will face a sentence of up to 40 years. Brian Mir, teleSUR, Brasilia.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The governments of Russia and Ukraine exchanged prisoners of war as part of the agreement reached during negotiations in the Turkish city of Istanbul. The Russian Defense Ministry reported that on Saturday a new group of Russian prisoners returned the country and at the same time captured Ukrainian soldiers were handed over to Kyiv. The Defense Ministry stated that the soldiers are receiving the necessary psychological and medical assistance in Belarus and will then undergo treatment and rehabilitation in military medical facilities. Russia and Ukraine agreed to carry out the largest prisoner exchange since the start of this special military operation, in addition to the unilateral transfer of 6,000 frozen bodies of enemy soldiers. Russia's defense ministry reports at least 66 Ukrainian drones intercepted over 6 southwest regions. The Russian defense ministry said the most recently attacked provinces are Voronezh, Belgorod, Stavropol, Samara, Crimea, and over the Sea of Azov. Territories bordering with Ukraine like Belgorod, Bryansk, Kursk, and Voronezh have reported regular projectile impacts as well as incursions and attacks from the other side of the border, forcing residents to leave and seek refuge in other areas. In China, more than 12,000 people were evacuated after typhoon Wu-Tip hit the southern part of the region. The Weather Service reported that the storm could weaken this Saturday. However, rains are expected to cause impacts in Guangdong province, which is on emergency alert. On the other hand, residents of the Beibu Gulf region are experiencing rough seas with waves up to 5 meters high. The authorities recommended that vessels operating in the area take precautionary measures. Similarly, the Meteorological Administration urged citizens to take preventive measures against the possible effects of wind, rain, and landslides in that region. On Saturday, China launched an electromagnetic observation satellite into orbit to improve its capacity to monitor space, Earth, and air in the event of natural disaster. This is the Long March 2 rocket, which took off from the Yunqiang Satellite Launch Center in the north of the country. The Chinese National Space Administration reported that the Long March 2 rocket successfully launched the Chang'e 102 satellite into its planned orbit. The National Hydrometeorological Forecast Center of Vietnam reported that at least 5 provinces could be affected by floods and landslides caused by tropical storm Wu Tip. The meteorological agency warned the population to be on the lookout for potential disaster risk as rain is expected over the weekend. It also pointed out that flash floods and landslides could negatively impact the environment and endanger lives. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Agriculture and the Environment has stated that it will monitor the rainfall to prevent and minimize damage. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Join us as well on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia, but don't go away just now because we are going to end this emission with the latest footage coming from the Middle East, the main topic of the past 2 days, since this is the most unprecedented escalation between Israel and Iran that is continuing, that is unfolding at this moment. We are seeing live images of the cities of Israel following retaliatory actions, tensions and escalations and ramping up to an unprecedented level between Iran and Israel. Currently, Iran is striking back after the Israelis started military operations strikes across the country, targeting different nuclear, military and also civilian infrastructure inside Iran and in the capital of Tehran. Also, from time to time, the world has been witnessing through live stream media how there have been huge explosions tonight at this moment. Also, the Iranian forces and in particular the main officials of the country, the Iranian authorities, have announced that they have also started a new round of attacks on the Israeli territories as well. They are using drones and ballistic missiles. We also heard from an Iranian high-ranking security officials also that Iran has prepared itself for a prolonged confrontation, and that is going to increase its attacks on Israeli territories. Keep tuned with TeleSUR English for all information regarding this conflict in motion in the Middle East.